Hey everybody, welcome to Paratruth Radio right here on Blog Talk Radio. My name's Justin.
And I'm Eric.
And we're broadcasting at you live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we just have to shoot out there really fast. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter. You can also find us on Tumblr if you are so inclined to do so. So hit that follow and like button. And we encourage everybody who listens every week to tell your friends, tell your coworkers. If you love the show as much as we do, we want the name out there. So get that word out there for us. So how has the week been for you there, dude?
Very busy. Very busy. I literally slept all day today. It's terrible.
Yeah, I slept quite a bit yesterday. So tonight we have on Bill Hall. He's the author of The World's Most Haunted House, and we'll get him queued in here. Bill, are you with us?
Yes. Could you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you just fine, sir. How are you today?
Awesome. Great. Thank you for having me.
So for all of our listeners who don't know you or anything about the book, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. My name is Bill Hall. I'm a long-time skeptic and magician. I used to spend a lot of time debunking these kinds of things, psychics and fortune tellers, people taking money from other people when they're not real. And so Lindley Street was one of those stories I really I never quite looked into.
Okay.
And bear in mind, by saying a skeptic, I've always been a healthy skeptic, meaning I was not completely closed-minded. James Randi would be a good example of, wonderful man, but completely closed to everything.
Yeah.
Whereas Houdini was, very intelligent, not going to be fooled, but kept an open mind and genuinely didn't want to set out to just debunk things, but wanted to really see if he could find, these things. So I tried to emulate that and be open-minded, because there are some things that, we can't explain. I always knew that, regardless of being, a skeptic. So I came across Lindley Street, and I was 10 years old at the time, growing up in Bridgeport, and didn't really think, I was, of course, enamored by it like everyone else, till my dad told me, oh, no, that's just a bunch of junk, because my dad never, of course, watching from the outside, who could blame anybody, because, newspapers just summarize everything, so without the details, how would you know? And Lindley Street, from the public point of view, to give you the, the 10,000 feet before we get into it, was a poltergeist occurrence where in November 1974, there were 16 to 20 police officers, about 14 firefighters, 2 priests, neighbors, reporters, onlookers. That onlookers alone totaled over 2,000 outside the house going up the street. And so this story just really spread. To sum it up, I say it's the Roswell of haunted houses. It literally went around the world, and then a few days later, boom, it's a hoax. So it had that same kind of pattern, and this thing just, the road closed, traffic was blocked off, and the story rippled around the world, Australia, Japan, Israel. There was newspapers and reporters from all over that carried this story. And it got to be a real problem for the city, Police had to stand guard all day, dogs and paddy wagons and barricades. And, this thing was crazy, the type of thing that you never really, you don't see that much, if ever, to this degree, which was one of the elements that I thought was so compelling about it in reading the newspaper articles. So I felt I had to dig deeper, and I was lucky enough to meet a wonderful gentleman named Roy Spade, who was the lead investigator on this, and he's still in the same town as he was. And he opened his home to me and ended up giving me all the tapes and all those interviews. And that's where my journey started. So that's kind of a 10,000-foot view of it. But just to add to that, I mean, this took place in a very tiny home. 3 rooms, ended up being 4 by knocking a closet down for the little girl. It was Jerry Gooden, Laura Gooden, and Marcia Gooden. And a very tiny house, 738 square feet, little bungalow down in downtown Bridgeport, Connecticut, lower income neighborhood, right a few blocks from the hospital there. And it just was the type of house that you wouldn't even think qualified to be a haunted house. And that's the other thing that really, the public, the display to the masses of this thing was really, like I said, a compelling part of it because, we think of these houses as, being in the backwoods. There's, hardly any witnesses. It's a farmhouse somewhere. And, I'm not saying that some of these things aren't real that do take place like that, but rarely you get so many witnesses, and especially of the type and number of credible witnesses as in this case. And then after it's a hoax, the police officers are forced to be interviewed at the police department in a conference room set up, and you have Boyce Beatty and his crew document this thing, and so you have this very rare level of detailed documentation to go along with all the the public witnesses. So, well,
Eric and I had a investigation group when I still lived in Cleveland with him, and he investigated a couple of really good investigations for the Lindley house. What started, or how did the activity start in the 60s or 70s?
Yeah, it actually started with the adoption of Marcy. The Goodens had a small child, Jerry Jr., who had cerebral palsy, who couldn't walk or talk or do anything for himself, and he ended up dying when he was 6, and so later they adopted Marcy from Canada. She was a Native American girl, 5 Nations Indian, and so they adopted her. And shortly after that, things started happening. She was very shy and withdrawn, and she quickly became frustrated because the parents were very overbearing and overprotective, which some of it was natural, of course, because of their prior child. But obviously, it got a lot for her to put up with. I mean, they wouldn't let her go anywhere because she might be killed, couldn't cross the street, so just very restrictive and protective of her that way. And then she was very shy and withdrawn. Maybe not even as a result of that. She may have been even just herself. So anyhow, between all of that, and she ended up getting picked on quite a bit at the public school there every day for about a year. And then she got beat up, and then she was out of school. And then you had the classic poltergeist situation of, this girl stuck at home after being beat up severely at school because of the color of her skin. They made fun of her because, she had the olive skin, so she didn't fit in with, the normal city there. And so she was stuck at home with the mother. And all of us that have wonderful mothers know that could be a thing no matter what, 6 weeks home alone, and so that's after that it really broke out. The actual story it started with the little things, though, going back to like 68. The door moving a little bit, chairs, keys out of place, things like that. And then in 71, there was these knocking sounds on the outside and inside of the walls, and the Goodens, called police and this town hall and everybody, saying, hey, these have got to stop. And, they thought it was the neighbors. They thought it was hospital additions, some construction on the highway. They had all their theories and stuff, but nobody can figure out what they were. And in 1972, they made a recording of these bangings with their friend and neighbor, Bridgeport police officer John Holdsworth, who lived across the street. He suggested that they record the noises so the town could figure out what was going on. So they did record them, and it was no help. But actually, those recordings were part of the recordings given to me. So that was pretty chilling to hear those sounds. And actually, in the book, there's access to those sounds, so you can actually hear them. But because that's the same tape from the 70s that was given to Ed Warren, and then Ed gave it to Boyce Beatty, and Boyce Beatty gave it to me. So, from Jerry, because Jerry passed it along, the father who was in the house. So they have these sounds every November, and on and off, and until November '74, when that's when it really exploded, and that was after that period of time. I told you, the 6-week period of time, and that's when they came home from a trip from New York, and TV was down off the shelf in the little daughter's room. She was 10, and he didn't know what happened. Put it back. It fell again. Disconnected it, and then was bringing in groceries, and the table flipped with groceries all over. A TV comes down on the mother's toe, actually breaks a toe, and knives and dishes are flying around, and that's when it was crazy. They had these 1970 recliners, those really heavy ones, and they were opening and closing on their own, and so they ran on the porch hysterical. They had already put up with some phenomena the night before, and now they were just they were done with it, So they were on the porch. They called one of their friends, and it was that guy. It was a couple, and the guy went down to the house, and the wife called the police. So the Goodins actually never called the police. The wife called the police. What they did is they went on the porch after calling their good friends, and they saw the daughter of Officer Holdsworth, and she was walking the dog, and they said, "Go get your father, we're in trouble here." And he ran across the street to help them, and he saw all kinds of things happen while they were still on the porch. And in fact, I thought it'd be neat to play an interview with Officer John Holdsworth that took place a little bit later in the day, where he explains what he saw when he went over there. So if that's ready for us, you could let it play now. That'll be pretty neat. It's about 3.5 minutes tops. So
yeah, I'll play it right now.
All right.
975 Lunatic Street. And you're with the Bridgeport Police Department? Yes, sir. Can you tell me, did you respond to the call? Yes, I did. My daughter was walking the dog, and she ran into the house and said, Jerry and Laura, which we know them by, had an emergency when I come right over. I come over and found the three of them on the porch hysterical. And what did you find when you came into the house? I come in and I found everything array. I mean, just disarray. The table's over, the chair's over, the icebox moved, the television moved, and I was the only one in the house, and they were still on the porch. Did you actually see anything move yourself? Yes, I did. I just told you. I saw the icebox move. I saw the television move. I straightened the television. It turned around. I saw the chairs open and close. Was there any other phenomenon that you observed? Nothing else other than settling the people down. I said, did you also see the cat? No, the cat was not around. Okay. And did you also witness the little girl in the chair that was pushed back in the front row? Can you tell us about that? Yes, I did. I seen her fly back 3 or 4 times. This later on in the afternoon, I left and come back and saw this. And did you test the chair to see whether it was possible that the girl could do it herself? No, there was no way. There was a priest here at the time when I returned from across the street who tried it himself, as big as I am. I'm 6'2". I weigh 220 pounds, and he couldn't move it. And she just flew back like there was nothing. Like a feather. Have you ever been involved in any psychic phenomenon before in your years on the police force? 15 years, no. Nothing. What was your belief in hauntings and poltergeist activity before? You probably heard about it. What's your belief now? I thought it was a poltergeist right away when I thought about it, and I believe in this, but I don't follow it. I see. Anything can happen. I see. So you were surprised. I mean, you came to this believing that it could happen. Oh, everything can happen. Anything can happen. How was this reported in the police department? What kind of a report would be turned in? I don't know. I had to make a report myself. I was called by the Lieutenant Coco, Bridgeport Police Department, who observed and controlled the scene here today. I see. Did he observe any phenomenon, do you know? I don't know. Other officers at the scene, I had to make my report, like I say, and get names of the other officers who did observe. Were there many officers who observed? There was 10 or 12. And also, I believe there were firemen also. Firemen also, right. Firemen were here. It was 10 firemen, 2 chiefs. And they observed the phenomenon that actually had seen things happen. I don't know what their activity was. I wasn't here. I was across the street watching my baby when the firemen arrived. But they walked out of here and they were afraid. I see. Thank you very much, officer. Great.
Wow, that's
It's amazing.
yeah, and having 30 hours of that stuff is something else. So I really have to thank Boyce Beatty for preserving that, and I'm honored to be able to tell the story. It's just it's quite a story, and just so much. What was really neat, the way it was documented, too, is Boyce would interview each person separately. So if you had 8 people who saw a particular incident, every single one of them would be interviewed separately to describe that very same incident. And so you could actually cross-reference all those interviews. And so it was very rare to have that level of detail because of the sheer amount of people and type of people. I mean, one of the incidents with Marcy in one of those chairs where it floated up and did a somersault in midair and threw her out of the chair. I mean, 3 police officers, I mean, they were talking to her when it happened, and there were firemen there. I mean, it was just, it was crazy. So obviously, right, to say that she did it all is ridiculous, but, you know, the police had to get they had to get the city back. And it wasn't all, it was the top police. It wasn't all the police, because a lot of those guys felt betrayed because, you know, their names were in the paper, and then all of a sudden you say it's a hoax and they look stupid, you know.
Right.
But, I know Joe Tomic, who I've talked to numerous times. He was one of the first responding officers, because what Holdsworth did is after he saw that stuff, he didn't know what to do, so he called for backup, and Joe Tomic was one of the officers who arrived, and Joe was very good. He helped edit the chapter that he was in to make sure all the little details were there. And I remember asking him, "How do you remember this?" I said, "I have trouble remembering things myself, and I'm much younger." And he said, "Well," he says, "you remember, you know, when you're a police officer and you walk in a house and there's a suicide," he says, "you remember that. You really remember that. You know, you don't forget it."
Right.
And he said, "You also don't forget Lindley Street." And I thought that was a really cool way to put it. But I can tell that he was a bit mad and disappointed that, you know, seeing what the other people said and said, yeah, they weren't there, you know.
Right.
Yeah, he would stress, you know, well, the superintendent said that, yeah, he never went in the house, you know. And those guys weren't there when I was there. I can't say what happened when I wasn't there, but they weren't there when I was there. So, but but of course in the newspapers they made it like the police said, like it's a collective unit. But no, there was quite a bit of police that did not say that. They said exactly the opposite, and they put it in writing in police reports. And Joe, is a funny story. When I first started talking to Joe, you could tell he was a great officer because he who are you? And he had the course to cross-examine me 1,000 times, and and then he got to know me and what I was doing, and a few phone calls. He said, maybe I'll send you the police report. I said, you have it? He says, yeah, I got the original. And so, weeks go by. So I'm like, oh, he's not sending this thing to me. And then one day I go to the mail and I just see J. Tomek, on the return address. And I was like a little kid getting a package in the mail. I'm like, he sent it. So I was able to put that in the book. I had the actual content of the police report, but I didn't have the actual, part in the appendix. I have the police reports, but right. I didn't have the actual, and that was just quite cool to have the actual on the stationery and stuff the way it was originally submitted. So, but that was funny. It was weeks before I got it, so I thought maybe he decided not to send it to me.
Now, one of the interesting things I heard during that interview was a question directed towards the officer, which was, "Did you see their cats?"
Yeah.
Now, there was an article posted by John Zappis, who Justin and I are acquainted with in the past. He's a demonologist within the paranormal community. Yep. And he did state that this cat was a big part of the fall 1974 incident, and that this cat would actually be able to speak and would often kick the basement door, yelling, "Let me out," amongst a number of other profanities that apparently it would say. Within your investigation, did you come across this, and is there any evidence to support these claims?
Yes. Yes to both, but not that it was the cat itself. So, okay. So there was audio phenomena. There was footsteps. There was door knocks. There was the banging on the walls. There was a guttural voice outside that the police complained about when they were doing crowd control. Mm-hmm. And when the police complained outside when they're doing crowd control, both some of the people in the crowd and the police would attribute those sounds to the swans, because they had these two cement planter swans out there, and they moved by themselves, and so almost like in audio you have the proximity effect or ventriloquism. It's whatever.
Right.
Yeah, whatever it's near or whatever got blamed. Now, when Jerry said that, the cat was pounding on the door, he never saw the cat pound on the door. Mm-hmm. He just knew the only thing in the basement was the cat.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? Now, Father Charbonneau, who was one of the priests that was the Warrens had called, because they worked with him numerous times, he was in the basement and saw the cat having this weird behavior and making strange sounds, and he thought that the cat said jingle bells.
Okay.
And again, I attribute that to there's a few places where the animals made sounds and as they will get
right.
See things we don't kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think it was a combination of that plus the regular audio phenomena that was taking place at various times throughout the house. I think I'm not saying a cat banged on the door. I think that's
right.
And then to top it off, Marcy called the cat Sam her only friend, mm-hmm. and she used to carry the cat around, pretending to make it talk. Which I was told by witnesses she wasn't very good at it,
Right.
It was pretty obvious,
Right.
And so that got mixed into it, and then later on when they announced it's a hoax, they said, "Oh well, Marcy made the cat talk," which she did, but nobody really, just like, "Oh well, Marcy said she went backwards in the chair once." Well, yeah, she did, but that's when her mother would yell at her and say, "Stop messing around, get out of the chair." You know, nobody was fooled by those incidents. You know,
Right.
So yeah, that's the thing about the cat. There's one other thing about the cat that was a major rumor that has survived for 40 years, and there was the police officers went to Marcy and said, when that guy comes over here, go over to him and tell him, you know, pretend your cat tells you that his brother's name's Frank. So the officer comes over and covers his badge and says, "Do you know my name?" And Marcy goes, "Well, I don't know your name, but Sam might be able to tell your brother's name." And pretends cat's talking to her and says, "Your brother's name, Frank." And, you know, he gets a little, he's a little startled by this, you know. Mm-hmm. And I remember Boyce Beatty was interviewing the police officers, and a police officer told that story. There actually was 2 or 3 witnesses that told the story, but this police officer told the story, and Boyce said, "Well, what did he say when you told him that you were playing a joke on him?" And then there's silence in the interview, and he goes, "We never told him." So that rumor spread and was a big, you know, people would talk about, say, "Oh, you know, Marcy's psychic, and the cat knew the brother's name," and, you know, and so, you know, you've got this human stuff going on that, you know, it's funny because that's the kind of thing that we don't expect to see in a horror movie, you know, but in real life, the guys are standing around getting bored, you know.
Right.
They're going to play some jokes too, so... But yeah, that's the thing about the cat. So did the cat talk? I would say not directly. And actually, Ed Warren had commented that he wished he had run out of tape. He had wished that he was able to record the sounds so that he could see whether they come out on tape or not. You know, the banging uses a physical object, so he was explaining, well, that'll come out on tape because it's using a regular object, whatever it is. Where the audio phenomena, he was interested to see whether that came out or not. Sometimes there was nothing there, and then he would get audio phenomena when he played stuff back, and other times there was noise, and the opposite would happen. But so it was, it had all of those elements, and the talking cat, of course, was a real neat element, but and very interesting that it sometimes related to what was going on. Like Marcy got picked up by one of the entities and thrown against the wall, and a police officer and a reporter swore the cat said help. And, you know, so it was kind of a weird, you know, some things like that happen where the audio phenomena, it seemed like it kind of, you know, fell into play with what was going on. But But plenty of this audio phenomena happened when, you know, Marcy wasn't around, and, you know, plenty of this stuff itself happened when she wasn't even in the house. So, but, you know, we know that, and of course that doesn't matter when you're trying to proclaim it. You know, once they call it a hoax, everybody went home. It was
it's all done and over with.
You don't have to prove it's a hoax. You know how that goes. So.
Right.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to take our first and only break because we're having a really good show here, so it's really interesting. I don't want to cut it anytime a little bit short. So, folks, you're listening to Paratruth Radio right here on Blog Talk Radio. Bill has offered to give away a autographed signed copy of his book, The World's Most Haunted House. We're going to give that away right now. Eric, what color do you want?
Color? Color. I thought you said color. I was like, what do you mean color?
Color.
I need to get new headphones so I can hear things a little better. Let's go with caller number 4 today.
All right, caller number 4, call 914-205-5558, and you will win an autographed copy of The World's Most Haunted House. We'll be back in just a few minutes, and we also have Eric's Random Fact of the Day.
Yeah.
Now, Eric's Random Fact of the Day.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and all that is in them. This includes the angels. Now, angels have become the center of conversation among many theologians, and over time, people have named a number of these angelic hosts. However, did you know that even though the Lord created thousands, if not millions of angels, he only mentions 3 of them by name? In his word, the Holy Bible, the names of these angels are Michael, Gabriel, and Lucifer. Names such as Raphael or Metatron are not biblically found, and therefore may be nothing more than human imagination.
This was Eric Randall's Fact of the Day.
Are you ready? Are you prepared? What if some cataclysmic event shook your every foundation? Would you and your family know what to do? My name is Jacqueline Druga, host of the Apocalypse Center Show. Join me every Thursday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. PrepperBroadcasting.com. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're there for your survival needs.
Ladies and gentlemen, sublimely elegant here as always, and you are listening to Parrot Truth Radio.
Well, unfortunately, that game over sound means that we did not have a winner for the autographed copy of The World's Most Haunted House. So I think what we'll do is we will give away that copy on our Facebook or Twitter page, or we'll put it out there for both, so that way we can give that away for Bill, and we will go from there. So whoever is listening right now, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, and you can also email us at parasiteradio@gmail.com. You can hop into our chat room if you have any questions for us or our guest. You can also call our call-in number, 914-205-5558. And Bill, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
All right. Eric, you had another question for him.
I do. Now, Bill, I come from a Christian background, and first and foremost, when it comes to the paranormal, and me being into the radio, paranormal radio, and doing the investigations that I do, it tends to be somewhat controversial among some of my friends and peers. However, among all of my research and investigations, I personally believe that any and all hauntings ever recorded are demonic in nature. And there's a number of things that go into that, and if I had more time, I'd explain it, and perhaps we could talk about it some other time. But when it comes to poltergeists, many believe that all poltergeists are demonic in nature, based on everything kind of moving and the danger involved in it, of people getting hurt, and et cetera, et cetera. So through your research, have you come to the conclusion that this was indeed a demonic type haunting, or do you believe it's something else?
I would hedge towards believing it was something else.
Okay.
I am definitely open, and the reason I say that is because I really think the fact that we're asking the questions or doing the investigations is really what's important.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't argue with you and say I'm absolutely right, because that would be ridiculous. First of all, you have more experience than I do, but the other thing is, how do you ever really confirm these things as to what they are? I think you can form some good theories,
mm-hmm.
and one day we probably will know. We just don't know what day that'll be. But the reason I would say, my thinking as a magician, and this has nothing to do with frauds or anything, but I tend to, not because I'm smart or anything, but because of the way I was trained, I tend to think of more possibilities. I'll give you an example. When we say, okay, things fell off the wall and things like that, and we say, well, was that an evil spirit? Or was that a spirit at all? We can say, my answer would be maybe. That may or may not have been the entities doing that. That could be just that interference from the colliding of two worlds, for lack of better terms.
Okay.
Another thing in Lindley Street case, everyone was saying how this thing was going after religious objects, but if you looked at which Boyce did, God love him, if you look at the incidents and catalog them, Boyce concluded that only 10% of the items affected were religious in nature. So, just anecdotally, the way people viewed Lindley Street, and it's only natural because and I find this myself just in non-paranormal stuff, just in daily life. If you ask me what I think, even if I work with something every day, my answer could be wrong when I actually go to look at the numbers, or the facts themselves. You know what I mean? But I always thought of it this way, and I know you disagree with me on this, and that's fine. But it's just the way I think that I'm open to more possibilities. When somebody is possessed, we usually come to the conclusion that an evil spirit has taken over the person. I mean, if they truly are possessed, not this.
Right. No. Right.
Right. So one of the other theories that I have, and I'm not saying I even believe this theory, but it's just the way my mind works, is what if this entity somehow finds itself in our world through whatever, that perfect storm of family trouble and the negativity and high sandy soils, all the theories, electromagnetic, finds itself in our world, ends up in a person and is trapped and trying to get out and feels that it is trapped. We think the person's possessed. The entity might say, what the heck am I doing in here? I want to get out. So, it's just, I always think of those additional, when the refrigerator floated, as a magician, I thought of two things. You either need hydraulics and everybody said that, you'd need a forklift to lift that thing. But the other thing that people would not have thought of could be a fake refrigerator. That would be the easier way, Now, it wasn't. But what I'm saying is I always try to think of those extra things, So we do know that there were entities in this case, and I wouldn't say that they were, happy-go-lucky. You know what I mean? I don't know if I would say that they're evil. I don't know. Well, let me put it this way. I don't have enough proof to say that they're evil. Because yes, they picked up Marcy and threw her and stuff, but the crowd outside did far worse. I mean, the crowd outside did absolutely horrifying things that made Jerry sick to his stomach at work. The ridicule he went through. We all, and I hear this a lot through haunting survivors, if you will, when they say, humans are far worse than any of these. I mean, not that these things aren't bad and horrifying and life changing, and I'm not trying to lessen that, but I don't think us humans are necessarily evil. But if you were looking from the outside, from an entity's point of view, you may certainly think that because of the same kinds of things. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a lot of serial killers who I would argue are not evil. They're actually their brains are messed up. Their wiring is broken. And I believe for somebody to be evil, they have to have a base level of logical thought where they can choose evil. If you can't choose evil because your wiring is messed up, to me, that's mentally ill. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying, let them go on the streets. I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is I think it's different. So do I think they were evil? I would say it's inconclusive. They very well could be evil, these entities. Or they could be neutral. And, because as is not my theory, but as a lot of people have said that the little girl or boy or teenage girl or boy in a poltergeist case has like a negative relationship with the entity or entities, or each get something out of it. So, was Marcy evil? No, I don't think so. Were the entities evil? I would say they could be. They could very well be. Were they demons? I mean, who am I to say? I mean, I don't know what that means or what it looks like. I would say they definitely could be evil, or I think they could be neutral.
Okay.
And that's the kind of thing that I think we don't know. But that's you said what your viewpoint were, that they're all demons, and of course that's all of these things. I think when it comes down to it is of course a matter of faith. I think the multiverse theory has a lot of merit to it, but just as easily could not be that, because we don't know what we don't know. And we've always thought we were the center of the universe. I mean, we always thought that the Earth is flat. The sun revolves around us. Animals don't go to heaven because they're not worth enough. So I mean, we have this. We have different belief systems that always put us at the center, and some you can argue, well, for good reason, because of what the Bible says, and but I mean, we as people, I think we naturally think that way. So it's when you get a possession circumstance or whatever, you naturally think something has invaded the person, because we're concerned about us. We're not thinking that something may be trapped and can't get out. And in fact, some researchers over many years are convinced that the longer a poltergeist entity, what a demon, whatever you call it, is out and away from their world or universe, whatever you want to call it, dimension or whatever it is, the almost the more lost it becomes. The one thing we do know is when peace is restored, and whether that's through religion, whether that's through jokes, whether that's through none of those and just the natural getting back to peace within the family unit, that the things tend to dissipate, definitely tells us that it's feeding on negative energy, but it really doesn't tell us whether it's evil in itself. One reporter said to me, because there was one of the things that happened was a boat moved like 14 inches. It was a model boat Marcy made, and it moved over a little. And his comment was, well, if that's a demon, it's just not very. It doesn't have very much to offer in ways of evil things,
Right.
But again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But that was just a funny comment. So, but I mean, those are my thoughts. I kept comparing the inside of the house with the outside of the house, and at times, like the three guys, they tried to burn this house down. So, are they demons? I mean, that's pretty bad, and that's actually worse than anything the entities did, really.
Right.
If you think about it, it would have killed them. So I would argue that they're probably not evil people. They probably were scared. They might be very religious people even. But evil, I don't use that term loosely because I'm naive in thinking most people are good, but I tend to think a lot of the people that we call evil are actually mentally ill. And then of course there are the true evil people who are very smart, know exactly what they're doing, don't have any diagnosis, and are just bad people, and that to me would be true evil. So that's kind of my long-winded answer to that. But
right.
Hopefully you agree with some of the things. It doesn't matter about the ultimate because, like I said, I'm open to
right.
That's why I presented some different theories there because I really think that they're all interesting, and at one time I was doubtful a real haunting even existed years ago. So I mean, why would I now limit myself and close my mind to to other theories,
Right. Yeah. All right, Bill. Well, we're getting close to the end, so I wanted to give you a chance to tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your book, and all that good stuff.
Yes, my book is available wherever great books and very bad books are sold. I love that when they say wherever fine books are sold. I'm like, wait a minute. Wherever fine books are sold, there's always bad books. I mean, come on.
Right.
So I'm not going to lie to you, all right? I'm next to some bad books. I'm next to some books that I'm sure are better than mine. But you can find me at Barnes & Noble, online at Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or your independent bookseller online or in store. It is by New Page Books, so it is in stores also or online. And my website's worldsmosthauntedhouse.com. You can sign up for my newsletter, or there's links to places where the book's available. And there's also some free stuff on there, so you can check it out on the website. And you can get a signed book plate that you can put inside your book if you want, no charge for that, and things like that. So some fun things, I hope. So check that out.
All right, Bill. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I was going to say it also has a list of where I'm going to be. Events coming up. So.
Oh, cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was mind blowing for me because you're one of our best guests that we've had so far. So.
Really?
I want to thank you. Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
So we appreciate you being on, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Oh, it'd be awesome.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, folks. That was Bill Hall, author of The World's Most Haunted House, The True Story of the Bridgeport Poltergeist on Lindley Street. I did send a link for you guys to his website in our chat room, and now we have a little bit of a review that Eric has about a movie he was able to preview.
Yeah. What's up, everybody?
And that link is also in the chat room as well if you guys want to check that out.
Yeah. So this past weekend, I had the opportunity to enjoy a film festival for free because I'm currently studying cinematic arts at college. So I get all these kind of cool chances to do crazy cool stuff. One of the interesting movies that I saw this past weekend, this past Friday in particular, was a movie that it's... I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. It's being pushed forward by Affirm Films. They're the ones who created it. And Affirm Films is actually a division of Sony Pictures. Some of you out there may have... What's that?
I said, wow, that's actually a really good push for them, seeing as Sony's huge.
Oh, yeah, Sony's huge. And they've been working with Affirm Films for quite a while now. Some of the films that Affirm Films has actually released are films such as Fireproof, Courageous, Soul Surfer, which many, even if you've never seen it, you know what it is or you've heard about it. It was a huge movie a couple of years ago. Mom's Night Out, which came out this past spring, among a number of other stories. This particular movie that I'm about to tell you about is a movie called The Remaining. The Remaining was written it is full-length feature film. It was written and directed by Casey La Scala. For those of you who know who he is, that's awesome. For those of you who don't, he has written or directed movies such as The Amityville: The Awakening, which is a documentary, if I'm not mistaken, as well as What a Girl Wants, A Walk to Remember, and, as you know, one of my favorite movies, Justin, Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
Which, for those of you out there who don't know, Donnie Darko is not one of my favorite movies. It's the music in there. Makes me sad.
Well, the movie is rather dark.
It's a dark movie. It's a very dark movie. Now, this particular movie, The Remaining, amazing horror movie. What's very, very special about this is you will find not one single swear word throughout the entire thing. There is very little gore, though there is a significant amount of gore. It's not like your typical slasher movie that you would see, such as Texas Chainsaw or something like that.
Right, yeah.
This is a story that's kind of a mix between, in regards to cinematography, it's a mix between, I would say, Paranormal Activity, a Cloverfield, and then pretty much your basic film that you would see on a normal day. So you have kind of like the first-person view as well as your third-person view and so on and so forth.
Okay. So is there like somebody filming for the first-person view, or?
Right. The first-person view is basically used as a handheld camcorder. And then you have your typical films, which may have been Reds that they use, I don't remember, that they use for other scenes throughout. So it's a nice mix. It's really good because I got to listen to Senior Vice President of Affirm Films. His name is Rich Peluso. They thought about going with the Cloverfield thing, where they only use the handheld camcorder the entire time. But then he thought to himself that is so 2009.
Well, yeah, Blair Witch used that. Cloverfield used that. There was a couple of others that did that.
Exactly. So they did come up with the idea to do both, to use both, and it worked out wonderfully for this film. Now you're probably wondering what this film is. And I'm going to just give you a quick little summary, more or less. Yes, a synopsis. I'm not going to go into detail or anything like that. I'm just going to give you kind of the pitch here, an elevator pitch, if you will. It's a story that follows 5 people who are enjoying a wedding when the apocalypse begins. Simple as that. Done. First, you recognize the rapture, which in this particular story is just incredibly done. In most horror films, you think of Cloverfield, for example, you have the party going on, and then all of a sudden you hear a loud noise, and then you see a giant fireball, and then you see the head of the Statue of Liberty come flying past the window. So there's kind of a bit of a I can't think of the word to use here, but it kind of sets itself up for something tragic that's about to happen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
This story in particular, The Remaining, you don't even see it coming at all. It's just one moment everything's fine and dandy, the next moment everybody's on the floor dead. You know? And that's the rapture. And it's a very interesting way that they did this. According to the Book of Revelation, which this story is based off, the Book of Revelation, in particular chapters 8 and 9. So if you want to go back and read chapters 8 and 9, any of you who are willing to open your Bible or get a Bible and read one or check it out online, you'll have an idea of basically what's going to be going on in the background. Because the story isn't really about the apocalypse, but it's about the people who have to endure the apocalypse and why they have to endure it. So it's definitely interesting in regards to faith and belief, and just as to why, or at least some reasons why, God allows certain people to stay here and raptures others up to him. And I could go way further in depth, but it's more important that you watch the film and check it out yourself. If you really want to see something interesting, something that has never really been done before, and you want to get scared, because let me tell you now, it is a very frightening film. I was watching around. I saw mothers with their children leaving the theater. They couldn't stay and watch it.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, there were all the people around me, girls and guys, jumping out of their seats and stuff like that. And I'm not going to lie, I jumped a couple times there too. But one of the things that happened that hasn't happened to me in a long time was that I literally sat there with a grin on my face for the entire hour and a half that this movie was playing. Literally. I was so just like, this is awesome. This is great. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, The Remaining, as Justin had said, he posted it in the chat, I believe he said, and you're also going to be posting it on Facebook and Twitter. So go ahead and check out those links. If you don't have the links, just remember the name The Remaining. Type that into Google, Yahoo, whatever you want, and that'll come up on your search engine. Check it out. It comes to theaters. It's only going to 71 theaters right now, worldwide. So they're hoping to see how it does and then maybe push it to 1,000 theaters, or an extra 1,000 theaters, I should say. So it's going to start off small, but it is going to be in main areas. You're thinking New York, California, your main cities it'll most likely be at. So check it out. Comes out September 5th. All right, so that's next week, folks. Is it September 5th?
Yeah, that would be Thursday Friday because we are on at September 7th.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I was confused. I'm thinking September 9th, but no, yeah, September 5th is when it premieres. So check it out.
All right, folks. That is the end of our show. I just want to give you guys a heads up. Next week we have Varla Ventura, author of Banshees, Werewolves, Vampires, and Other Creatures of the Night. She will also be giving away a autographed copy of her book. And we will see you guys next week.
Peace.